Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
In these first 72 hours, we have done more to reform the planning system than previous governments have done in 14 years. You have put your trust in us, and we will repay that trust. The work towards a decade of national renewal has begun. There is no time to waste, and we are just getting started.
That's our new Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, on day one of the first full week of the Labour government, saying she has no time to waste, and neither do we. Welcome to Bloomberg UK Politics. I'm Stephen Carroll.
And I'm Caroline Hepker, yes. So after a flurry over the weekend of activity, we have the first major speech from Rachel Reeves. But also, we should think a little bit about all of the appointments that we had over the weekend. Yeah,
new jobs for lots of people. James Timpson from Timpson's has been appointed Prisons Minister. He's chair of the Prison Reform Trust charity, known for hiring many ex-prisoners in his business as well. Patrick Vallance, of course, known as being the UK's chief scientific advisor during the pandemic. He's become Science Minister. And then some of the big names in Cabinet as well have been doing a bit of travelling. David Lammy, as Foreign Secretary, has been meeting counterparts in Poland, Germany and Sweden. The new Defence Secretary, John Healey, has been to Ukraine. And Keir Starmer himself also on the road. He's in Northern Ireland after visiting Scotland and is going to Wales later today as well. So lots of travel on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can pass the new appointments, the new cabinet in a bunch of different ways. I think it's really interesting that they brought in people with who are considered to have deep expertise, like the Attorney General, Richard Hermer. Also, as you mentioned, James Timpson. He's also the chair of the Prison Reform Trust. So that was kind of an appointment that was welcomed. Plus also the kind of usual group that was widely tipped. Obviously, Angela Rayner, Jim McMahon and others. You can also think about some of the former Blairites appointments, which I think are really interesting. And Pat McFadden is one of those. But also Jackie Smith, who's in education now, is going to be quite fascinating. And then lots of different reads on diversity. How do you think about diversity in terms of these appointments? The number of women being counted versus men, and also the split in terms of education. Actually, 2 ministers, including Angela Rayner, who didn't go to university at all, and 2 in Cabinet who went to the same comprehensive school in Manchester, which I think, a lot of people have noted.
Yeah, so that's the cast of characters. Let's turn then to the policy and what we were hearing from Rachel Reeves, the big plan for growth. Let's take a listen to a little bit more of what she had to say.
To investors and businesses who have spent 14 years doubting whether Britain is a safe place to invest, then let me tell you, after 14 years, Britain has a stable government, a government that respects business, wants to partner with business, and is open for business.
So Rachel Reeves there with 15 minutes in terms of the address at the Treasury, but then took a lot of questions on many different topics, to which we want to bring in to discuss our city editor, Katherine Griffiths, and our UK economy reporter, Tom Rees. Welcome to both of you. We might have been trying to put our feet up after the flurry of activity on Friday, but no, so much to think about over the weekend, and also this big speech by Rachel Reeves today. Tom, the big question then remains around how Labour plans to create economic growth in the UK. And Rachel Reeves was saying she understands the difficulties, but she also laid out a number of policies that she's already starting to work on.
Yeah, so Labour have been very clear that growth is really key to their plan, and it's how you find the money to pay for better public services, which have obviously deteriorated in the last couple of years. There's a few strands that Rachel Reeves was laying out today. The big one was planning reforms, and she was saying they were going to grasp the nettle on that. And she was very clear that that she expects opposition to some of her plans, but she's going to do it anyway. She was talking about kind of a short-term political sacrifice in order for a long-term gain, which was quite interesting. So planning was the big one today, but there are some other things that they're looking at. They're talking about devolving more powers. They think that might boost growth. They're talking about more public investment, and also stability. Stability, just, we've had chaos under the Tory government over, the last 7 or 8 years, and they just think a stable government with a large majority makes it quite a good prospect in terms of foreign investors, particularly when you look at what's going on in France and the US, etc.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of the speech, I felt, that referred to the inheritance of what Rachel Reeves had been, I suppose, learned from Treasury officials since she had taken over the job on Friday, and exactly how parlous the state of the public finances were, the challenges ahead. She was very keen to lay that at the door of the Tories. But this message to investors that you talk about, Tom, is something that I know, Katherine, you've also been monitoring very closely as well. This idea that, stability can attract investors to Britain. Is that going to be enough when it comes to trying to achieve the sort of results that the Labour Party is hoping for?
No, I don't think so. So stability is an extremely important starting point. But, business really does want to see Reeves kind of set out quite quickly a range of bold policies. So in advance of them actually getting to the business of government, sort of towards the end of last week, business people were saying, we just don't want a host of reviews and this, that and the other. We actually want to kind of get on with it. I think partly they feel like actually a lot of them liked Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor and, felt quite sort of sad to see him go. There have been a lot of reviews into how you sort out the capital markets or how you do a whole range of things to sort of boost the value of the investment in British companies. So they really wanted to see Reeves come out with some bold things. There's been an awful lot of fevered chat of rabbits out of hats. Those rabbits are either non-existent or still in their hutches.
Okay. I mean, Reeves talked about stability, investment and reform, but there is a tension, isn't there, at the heart of this, that she was talking about that the Labour government was in no way going to abandon its manifesto commitments, and yet talking about growth requires hard choices that previous governments have shied away from. There's a tension there, isn't there, in terms of they didn't have a very bold manifesto, but on the other hand, they do want to deliver growth. I mean, how do they square that, Katherine?
I think it's tricky because I think, and business is well aware of this, that on the one hand, as you say, they want to deliver growth. They also want to kind of boost regions. So you then get to actual hard specific choices. Do you put some sort of big investment into an area where there's already quite a lot of prosperity, but it's a sort of a more attractive, safer bet for investors? Perhaps you get better returns straight out of the project. Or do you try to go for something in another part of the country that is, much more deprived, much more needs the money in many different ways, but is a tougher sell to the investment world? It really isn't clear that Labour has got careful thinking under its belt on those sorts of questions.
Tom, of the things already done that Rachel Reeves referred to, ending the ban on onshore wind from today, and it was really that focus on planning that seemed key as to things that either have been done already or will be done within a matter of days or weeks. Yes,
yeah, absolutely. It seems that they're kind of trying to front load some of the growth boosting policies. And you have seen kind of economists talk about particularly the size of Labour's victory probably being quite helpful to growth in the next couple of years. Some of them are adding a couple of tenths of a percentage point to their growth forecast. So it's quite a modest uplift, but it's I think economists are seeing it as a positive that they're kind of really getting on the front foot and starting with these reforms because particularly with planning, it's been a big ask for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the specifics, you talked about adding 300 new planning officers, building 14,000 new homes in Liverpool and a couple of other cities as well that she named, and trying to get through a couple of data centres being built, saying that, yes, the trade-offs always exist, but she was trying to show that they were making decisions already, but how much does that really help?
I suppose it's the proof of the pudding kind of a thing. Yeah. I suppose it's sort of in the kind of city finance world, we will get more information about the National Wealth Fund they're going to create. Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of England, will give a speech. So we will learn more about that. And one of the really quite interesting things, I think, is they've talked a lot about wanting to attract £3 of private investment for every £1 of public money. There's some speculation that they might be able to sort of improve that ratio to get a bigger percentage of private investment in. I think if they do that, and they have a sort of reasonably big pot of money to announce, that will be quite a boost.
Yeah, she talked about, I have received the report from Mark Carney and will be announcing the next steps in short order.
One of the other things that the Chancellor talked about too is the creation of a growth delivery unit within the Treasury too, as something to sort of measure the effectiveness of some of these plans. And Tom, I wonder, is that the sort of thing that is that more kind of showing than tell, or rather showing rather than necessarily action on that front as well? Is that going to help the follow through on some of these policy plans and perhaps to try to create some of that growth that Rachel Reeves so desperately wants to be able to demonstrate? Yeah,
I mean, there's been quite a lot of criticism, the last couple of years about this Treasury mindset that seems to infect every Chancellor that enters that door, in that it's much more concerned about the state of the public finances than growth. And I think, there's even been talk about, whether they should even split the Treasury up in two to kind of have like a public finances side and a growth side, just because of how one suffocates the other. And I think maybe carving out a whole part of the Treasury for growth maybe that solves that issue, but I think it won't. I think there'll still be concerns about that kind of Treasury orthodoxy just sort of suffocating the growth ambitions.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's also that it is, you have to say, immensely difficult to have government, either pick sectors that they're going to support or actually do partnerships with private business. It's not as if this is a new idea. Public-private initiatives are a story that lots of countries have tried in many ways. It's just immensely difficult for the government to come out with what it wants, and to make the right sorts of decisions. What do you think about? Is this a round two of PFI, Katherine?
Well, yes, it is immensely difficult, and I think they're very spooked by the ghosts of PFI past, and obviously that was a Labour thing, so they will want to be avoiding those pitfalls. I think, yes, Treasury orthodoxy, they definitely won't want to try to sort of pick winners, but I think they have got quite a lot of people around them, some of them from the sort of finance and business world, who have done quite a lot of thinking. People like John Kingman spring to mind, who used to be a Treasury official, is currently Chairman of Legal and General. There are people around them who have been giving a lot of thought to these issues, and indeed we may find out more about them when it comes to the National Wealth Fund. So I think that they hope, I guess, to find a way through where they are not picking winners, they're not sort of, going to be bogged down by these kind of failed projects, but at the same time do find a fresh way of bringing public and private money together.
Okay.
One thing I will say on this as well is just it'd be interesting what they come out with in terms of industrial policy, because when we talk about picking winners, industrial policies of the past have been very bad at picking winners, and I've never really worked, but it's kind of back in vogue. We're seeing in the US, huge money going to their industrial strategy. So it'd be interesting to see what Reeves comes up with on this, because it was part of the manifesto. Yeah,
indeed, keeping us all busy in the short and medium term as well. Tom Rees, our UK economy reporter, and Katherine Griffiths, our city editor, thank you very much for joining us. We did also learn, by the way, from the Chancellor, the budget date will be announced shortly. We haven't got quite the date for that yet, but it will be something to look forward to.
I was on tenterhooks when you said that.
Rifling through our diaries for later in the year, things to think about. That's it from us for today. If you like the programme, don't forget to subscribe, give it 5 stars so other people can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
This episode was produced by James Wilcock and our audio engineer was Sean Guastamakis. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. We'll be back with more tomorrow. This is Bloomberg.
Bloomberg UK Politics. Listen weekdays at noon on DAB Digital Radio in London.